Hello everyone. So today we are going to solve the problem edit distance. So the edit distance between two strings is the minimum number of operations required to transform one string to other. The allowed operations are you can add one character, you can remove one character, you can replace one character. Okay. So for example, the edit distance between love and movies too. So you have this string love and movie, right? So you could replace L with M. This required one operation. Then you could add I. Then you are able to transform this string to this string in number of operations too. And this is the minimum number of operations through which you can transform this string to this string. Right. So let's try to make some observations. Let's try to make some observations. Okay. So let's try to make some observations. So you have string ABCD, that is str1, and you have a string XYZ, that is str2, right? Or what could you do? You could add, you could remove, or you could replace, right? So let's try to do these operations on these two strings one by one, so that we are able to. Let's try to do. First, we could add, right? So initially we have the string ABCD and XYZ, right? So you could add on string 1 or you could add on string 2, right? So what and where should you add, right? Suppose you have string ABCD and XYZ, right? So you try to make these strings similar. You could make this to similar to this, or you could make this similar to this. So what you try to do, you are add such that there are some matching characters, right? You add the character such that the character in both the string should be matched, right? So you should add A, B, C, D, Z here, right? Or X here, such that it some part of the string, some part of the string match, right? Through this, some part of the string match, right? If you add on the back, on the last, so these characters are matching, right? The last character are matching. So if you add on the front, if you add on the front, right? So these characters are matching. So you could add at the front or you could add at the last, right? I choose last. I try to match the last character, right? You could do such that the first character match, but I try to matching like last character, right? So I should add on the string 1 such that the last character is matching. So the resultant string would be A, B, C, and you add Z, right? You add Z. And uh, what should you add on string 2, right? You should add D at the last, X, Y, Z, D, right? Why if I try to match the character, the problem that I going to solve, right? The length would be reduced, right? What I'm trying to say that if you have A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, if you add D, the next length you are going to solve is this, right? Because you match already, right? You have to convert these part of the string to one another, right? You could transform ABC to XYZ or XYZ to ABC, right? Uh, Now if you add on the string one, if you add on the string one, right? If you add on the string one, so the length would reduce. The length would reduce for the second string, right? What I'm trying to say that the next problem that you are going to solve with for this part and for this part, right? The length that you are going to solve is remains the same, in case of string one, that is n, and for the second string it is reduced by one, right? Correct. Perfect. What about this? The length of the first string would be reduced to one, and the second string length would remain the same, right? Correct. And the part of the problem that you're going to solve, that is ABC and XYZ, because the character are already matching. The last character are already matched, right? Already matched. Now let's try to do the operation second. Let's try to do the operation second. Yes. So second operation that I could do, that is remove, right? You have this string A, B, C, D, and XYZ. So you could add on the string one, or you could remove from the string one, or you could remove from the string two. If you remove from the string, the string would be X, A, B, C, and XYZ. If you remove from the string two, A, B, C, D, and XY, right? So the next problem that you are going to solve for these strings, and you notice that the length of one string one would reduce to one, second one remains the same, length of the second one remains the same, right? And similarly for this, the length of the string two is reduced to one, and length of the string two reduced to, it still remains the same. That is n, right? That is n. Now let's try to do the third operation, that is replace. The third operation is replace, right? Third operation is replace, replace, right? Now you could replace from the string one, or you could replace from the string two, right? What should you from which character would you like to replace, right? You have the string A, B, C, D, and X, Y, Z. So you would definitely replace D with a Z, such that the last character are matching. So you would replace like that. Or for the second string, you definitely replace Z with D, right? And the next problem that you are going to solve for, this is ABC. Let me use different highlighter. Yes, this is ABC and XY. And for this, similarly for this ABC, right? What is here? Yes, you didn't replace. Yes, replace it with D, right? The next problem that you are going to solve for XY, right? And the length of the both of the string replace to one, reduce to one. This is n minus one, n minus one, n minus one, n minus one, right? So there are some observations that I would make from these things. Let's try to do that, right? So first observation that I could make, that whether you add, whether you remove, the problem that you're going to solve similar, right? In which you solve ABCD, XYZ, ABC, XYZ, right? ABC, XYZ, and ABCD, XY, right? So the problem that you're going to solve, that is similar if you're going to remove, or if you add, if you remove, right? And the second observation that I could make, that in replace, whether you replace in string two, whether you replace in string from string two or string one, the problem that you're going to solve, that is similar, that is ABC, XY, and similarly for this ABC, XY, right? So the observation would be, the first observation that I could make, that add and remove leads to similar problem, right? Leads to similar problem. And the second observation that I could make, that replace whether from string one, whether from string two, leads to similar problem, right? Leads to similar problem. So by using this, make, I could write transition states, write the transition states, right? So I could write dp of ij represents the added distance or the minimum number of operations, right? The minimum number of operations required to transform the minimum operations required to transform from one string of length I to other of length j, right? I could write it, right? So let's try to define transition states. So we have two possibilities. That is, first one, the character are matching, right? The character are matching. The second option, that is they are not matching. So if they are matching, right? If they are matching, so what could I write if they are matching? So dp of ij, nothing but the dp of I minus one j minus one, right? That is, if the character is matching, the length that we are going to, that is, what is the minimum operations required to transform a string of length j minus one and string of length I minus one, right? And if they are not matching, so we have different options, right? We could add or we could replace. If we add or remove, we can do what we can do. In one thing, the string the length of the string 2 reduced, if for the string 2 length of the string 1 reduced. Similarly for remove, one of the length get reduced, right? So I could write something like that. I could write the transition state that if the length of the string 1 remains the same and the length of the string 2 reduced to 1, and I do operation. For this, the second option, that if I apply the operation on string 2, the length of the string 2 reduces, the string 1 reduced, and the second one remains the same, and add plus 1 because I am doing operation, and I have to take minimum. I have to find minimum, right? I have to find minimum, so I have to take minimum. So minimum of these, right? This is something that I can do. This is something that I can do if I replace, if I add or remove. And what will be the transition state for this, for operation replace? So in this case, I could write dp of ij is equals to is equals to uh, dp of both of length get reduced, dp of I minus 1 and j minus 1 plus 1. I do operation. So if they are matching, right? So the length reduces to 1, and I do not do operation. I don't do operation, right? If they are, if they are not matching, so I have two options, that whether I could replace or whether I could add or remove, right? If I'm going to reduce the length of the second string, the length of the second string may reduce if I do the operation, right? If I do the operation, the length of the first string uh, would be reduced, right? There are two options that I could have, right? And I have to add one because I do operation. The third case, that is if I'm going to replace, so both of the length, both the length of the both get reduced, right? So the next problem that I'm looking for, the n minus 1, n minus 1, n minus 1, n minus 1, so, right? Then get reduced. So this is the transitions. These are the transition states, right? And I have to take minimum all of them. I have to take minimum, right? So I could write something like that. This is the operation 1. This is the operation 2, and dp of ij would be minimum of operation 1, operation 2, right? This is something that I can do. Now, what will be the base case? What will be the base case, right? Suppose the string 1 get empty, and there are some characters on string 2. There are some characters. There might be case that string 1 has some characters and string 2 get empty. So if this is the case, the number of operation that you have to do, that is the number of characters present in string 2, right? This is string 2, this is string 1. Similarly, the number of operation that you have to do, the number of characters remaining in the string 1, right? The number of characters remaining in the string 1. So the base case would be dp of ij is equals to is equals to uh, dp of 0 I, right? That is the first in the string 1 is get emptied, right? So dp of 0 I is equals to I, right? And for this, dp of I0 is equals to I. That is the length of the string 1, the number of operation that required to remove length of the string I if the second string is empty is I, right? Suppose this length is some 3, so the number of operation that you require, that is 3. So dp of 30 becomes 3. That is the number of operation required to remove these three characters, right? Or add some character that is similar, right? You could remove from the string 1, or you could add the string 2. This is the similar operation that we saw, right? So these are the base cases. These are the base cases. And finally, we have to return answer, that is dp of n. That is to transform string of length m to n or n to m, whatever this is, right? This is our final answer, right?
Right.
So this is
We
the
have string A and B, right? And take input A, B. Int n equals to A dot length, right? Int m equals to B dot length. Perfect. Now we have to define the delimiter for vector int dp, right? N plus 1 comma vector of int m plus 1. We have to initialize it with some maximum number, right? Such that we have to update it with some minimum, right? Now we have to define the base case. Base case for int I equals to 0, I less than equal to n I plus plus dp of I 0 is equals to I. What it means that if the string b becomes empty, right? If the string b becomes empty, so whatever the remaining length of string 1, that is the number of operation that we have to perform, right? Similarly, for if the string a becomes empty, So I equals to 0, I less than equal to m, I plus plus. dp of I, dp of 0 is string a becomes empty, and whatever the length of string b, that becomes the number of that would be the number of operations that's required to make both the strings similar, right? Now we have to do transitions for int j equals to 1, j less than equal to m, j plus plus, correct? So let's take the characters. X equals to a I minus 1, and char y equals to b j minus 1, right? Now if these characters are equal, we have to do nothing, right? So the dp of ij would be dp of I minus 1, dp of j minus 1, right? Else we have to do some operations. What would be the operation? Let's say operation 1 is equals to dp of I minus 1, j minus 1 plus 1. This is the operation replace, right? If we replace both string, the length of the both string is the length of the both string get reduced to 1, right? What would be the second operation? If we could add or we could remove, right, any one of them. So dp of j minus 1 plus 1 and dp of I minus 1 j plus 1, right? This is something that we do if we add or remove, right? And we have to take the minimum. This is add or remove, right? So if we add or remove, one of the string length would reduce to 1, whether it is string 2, whether it is string 1, depends on the depends on the operation that we add or remove, right? So the next we have to take update dp of ij with the minimum of these operations, right? Comma minimum of these operations, operation 1 comma operation 2, correct? Perfect. The final answer would be dp of n m, correct? Perfect. Now let's let me go through once again. Is there any typo mistake or not? Perfect. And Victor dp of n plus 1 n plus 1. Perfect. This is our base case. Perfect. Perfect. We have to do nothing. Operation 1. Perfect. This is also perfect. Perfect. Right. Now let's try to run it. This looks great. Oh, there is some mistake. What it is? That is D was not declared. We used somewhere D. Where it is? It is on the line 34 or 28. It is 28. Right. It is on the line 28. So we have to replace it with TP. Perfect. Any other? No. Now let's try to run it again. There is some other error that is not used semicolon somewhere here. Right. Let's try to run it again. I hope there is no other mistakes. Yeah, it's fine. So the number of operations are 2, right? So this is correct, right? So the time complexity is going to be n cross m, n cross m, and the space we are using 2D vector, right? So this is the code. I hope you got understood. If it is not, comment it down. I try to resolve your doubts, right? Thank you.
Until we reach it, all you need to know is that we're holding on. We rise up from the dust.